Hey everyone, John Lorden here with a special MiniScratch update for you guys. You might be looking at the date saying, wait, it's not Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. MiniScratch updates will be happening typically on Tuesday or Thursday. Consider them a little bit of a bonus video throughout the week. We had one last week. We're having one this week. I've got a lot of updates to get to, so we might have a regular fourth video for a little while here. But this is a development that had happened a few weeks ago now. It was in the case kind of related to Carolyn Small. You might remember that that was a police shooting we covered on MiniScratch several months ago. Then on a MiniScratch update, we talked about an instance where one of the officers involved with that shooting was getting violent with his ex-wife and threatening his ex-wife and her boyfriend. We now have another new development in regards to Lieutenant Robert Corey Sasser. Over at myagc.com, the headline spells it out, and I don't know, it's a yet another horrible twist in this saga of just never-ending bad twists around this case. And quite honestly, I don't think we're done with them yet. But Georgia cop who killed Caroline Small shoots self after killing wife and man, and the man was the wife's boyfriend. Lieutenant Robert Sasser, we see a picture of him here. He also goes by Corey, shot and killed his estranged wife and her boyfriend before fatally shooting himself in the head. Sasser was one of the most notorious officers in Georgia after the brutal 2010 shooting death of Caroline Small, where he and another officer sprayed bullets across the windshield of the unarmed mother. Both officers escaped punishment and kept their badges and guns. Despite strong evidence, the shooting was unjustified. Now, at this point, both officers have since passed away. I don't know, sometimes justice comes in very bizarre ways. Just last month, a judge banned Sasser from Glynn County after a pair of violent episodes. The first, on May 13th, involved a domestic violence arrest involving his wife, Katie, and was followed just days later by a 9-hour armed standoff with SWAT police that ended with a felony arrest after Sasser tried to assault officers. Now, the first one I covered on MiniScratch, and there's a little bit of an interesting aspect there that he was verbally threatening his wife and her boyfriend, his estranged wife. I'm not sure if their divorce was actually finalized yet. And she was wondering why he wasn't arrested. He was literally saying that he was going to kill them to their faces. A number of days later, the police chief reviewed the body cams that were on the scene and did decide to go ahead and arrest Sasser, but he was quickly bonded out. They had some conditions on his bond. He had to leave his wife alone. He couldn't be handling firearms. Well, then we get to the second instance that happened days later in this 9-hour armed standoff. What was this standoff about? Corey was going to kill himself, I would presume, with a firearm. So he was already breaking the conditions of his bond. But regardless, outside of that, he was freed again. And when actually went to court, legitimately went to court, to a court date with his wife, and there's some strange things that happened there. Sasser, who goes by the name Corey, had been living in Alabama with his sister in recent weeks. His bond conditions included staying away from firearms, avoiding his estranged wife, and attending regular mental health counseling. But a court hearing related to his divorce drew him back to Brunswick on Tuesday. The hearing didn't go his way, according to his criminal defense attorney, who said a judge offered very limited visitation rights for Sasser to see his 10-year-old son. And quite honestly, this is probably the worst angle of this story for me. Not only did this man take his son's father away, this man took his son's mother away, another male in his life that was probably going to be someone that this kid could have looked up to. This 10-year-old son is now facing this world completely alone. And I think that's terrible, extremely short-sighted, and I can't believe that someone would do that to their own child. Sasser's estranged wife and a male friend, John Hall Jr., Sasser's victims, complained to Glynn County Police Tuesday night that Sasser made a threatening gesture towards them that evening while eating at Moondoggy's Pizza in Brunswick. Sasser allegedly held his bare hand up like a gun and pretended to pull the trigger. At a news conference Friday, Glynn County Police Chief John Powell confirmed the department received a complaint. So keep in mind, not only did he do this, multiple people saw it that were in the restaurant. They actually called the local police and let them know that this happened. And they're saying that the department launched an investigation into the threat, but obviously that investigation didn't get onto Corey's heels quite quick enough to stop him from doing what ultimately happened there. The Justice for Caroline Small group that formed in 2015 believes responsibility for Thursday's events extend far beyond the local police. The group for the past few years had been making appeals. They're talking about multiple government officials they've reached out to. Those appeals went nowhere, and no public official would touch the controversial case. Quote, "It saddens us even more to realize that these deaths could have been prevented," said Robert Apgar, the group's spokesman. And what you have here, I have a few people that live in this area that have been contacting me as well, giving me their insights. You have a lot of people that are concerned about ultimately what happened here. Look, I know some people are really having trouble with the police. I get accused of it all the time because of the types of stories that I cover, which are unsolved mysteries. So guess what? In a lot of those, people are going to be critical of police. But in this particular case, it seems like we really had a bad cop, that there was more than one sign. There was multiple occurrences. There's even some sexual harassment misconduct that this guy might have done around all this as well. Just do yourselves a favor if you really want to understand how bad of a cop he was. Give this article at MyAGC a read. It is written by Brad Schrader, who has done a lot of coverage in the Caroline Small case. He even wrote a nice little piece about our coverage of the case at one point. But we have something here where how many signs did we need for the police department to act? But then on top of that, you had that this went to a grand jury for review. We had government officials looking into this case because of the shooting, and there was no mechanism to just stop Corey, to just stop him at some point, to take this guy out of play from being able to hurt other people. It just seems like every time he would supposedly get in trouble, he was treated with extreme leniency, obviously to the point where he felt like he could do anything, including killing his estranged wife and her boyfriend and making a very difficult time for his son's future. On top of that, at AJC.com, there's another interesting article. I don't want to go into all the details of it too much, but it's kind of taking the conversation to that higher level that I was just touching upon. Multiple government officials, a district attorney. Why is no one trying to affect positive change in a situation where it seems like we've got a cop that might have gone rogue or at a minimum is not supporting the image of his department very well and the fundamentals by which he's supposed to be serving the law. When a murderous cop has law and order enablers, and this is written by Bill Torpy. I really recommend that you guys check this out as well if you want to understand a little bit about the next level up in terms of some of the political pressures that quite honestly need to be applied in this situation. I tried for a couple days this week to get a hold of District Attorney Jackie Johnson to ask her, how can you look at yourself in the mirror? Johnson is the prosecutor who cakewalked a couple of trigger-happy cops through the justice system after the thoroughly outrageous 2010 shooting of Caroline Small. And look, guys, I don't take writing like this lightly. It's obvious that Bill Torpy is upset. It's obvious that he has a very strong opinion about what's going on here. He's not the only one. I'm telling you, I'm hearing from multiple people that live in this area. People are very upset about this case. This gets really ugly from my perspective. DA Johnson acted as though she were Public Defender Johnson. The DA gave the officers the evidence in the case weeks before it was presented to the grand jury, and then let the Glynn County Police Department, her partner in burying the truth, show jurors a faulty animation of the case. I don't remember if I covered it on MiniScratch, but I did see that animation. I did agree it was faulty. It wasn't very accurate. We had crime scene photos. Well, I don't know if they would even consider it a crime scene. There's plenty of photos of the actual location, how the vehicles were parked, how her car was pinned in, the fact that her car didn't have tires left on it. There's a lot of information that led to a very typical, well, I think an easy to come to conclusion for several of us that their lives were not in any particular danger when they fired all those shots into that woman's car. And I know that's an opinion, and I know some of you debate that opinion, so I definitely give you room to do so. But according to the information I've reviewed, the pictures I've seen, it was pretty difficult for me to conclude that their lives were ever in any serious jeopardy. In the past 2 months, one of those cops, Lieutenant Robert C. Sasser, was again protected by Johnson's office. Nearly 2 months ago, Sasser went to the house of his estranged wife and in front of his fellow officers repeatedly threatened to kill her and a local businessman she had been dating. And last week on June 28th, he acted on that vow, shooting to death Katie Lavette Sasser and Johnny Hall. The other aspect about the police standoff that he had several days after the first time he went and kind of verbally abused his wife in front of officers when he was threatening to end his own life, he actually fought. The officers rushed him to stop him, and he wound up assaulting several of them as well and had charges pending on that as well. So just it's really hard not to look at this situation and just say, look, this is something that went completely out of control. This guy came off the tracks. I mean, he just is fully off the tracks, and no one is doing anything to get him back on those tracks. I think it's very hard to look at this case and to not say there is a systematic failure that is going on in this area. I am hopeful that people are going to rise up, use their voting power, use their voices, bring this up in public forums, really try to raise attention to what went wrong in this case. There were several steps in this story where someone could have stepped up and done the right thing and maybe even helped save Corey. But unfortunately, not only did they not save Corey, we also lost Katie and Johnny on top of that, which is really, really terrible. So I just wanted to share that update with all of you. I know it's a couple weeks old. I'm still kind of backlogged on my updates, but like I said, I will keep them coming a bit regularly for the next several weeks till I catch up on everything. I know many of you out there care about these cases like I do, so I want to be sure to let you know when they hit conclusions, even if the conclusions aren't the ones that we were hoping for, which this one certainly isn't. And once again, I urge you, particularly if you live in this area, please check out these 2 articles, see if it moves you to act. And if you do know how to act on that and you want me to help publicize it, please reach back out to me and let me know about it. Twitter is the best place. If there's something I can do to help with this, obviously I want to do that. I think things should be better than this. And I know a bunch of you out there probably do too. Thank you so much, everyone. I will catch you back here tomorrow on the Lord and Arch channel.